Hello students, in today's class we are going to study principles of editing, principles of news editing. So editing is a responsibility shared by many people in a newspaper. There is a famous saying that any bloody fool can write, it needs a heaven born genius to edit. So editing starts at the moment of composing a story by a reporter and continues till the process of printing is completed. This is the principles of editing. This is what we are going to study. So editing process. So basic principles of editing lies in its process. So the process of editing consists three phases, namely selection, correction and rewriting. So these are the three phases of editing process. They are selection, correction and rewriting. So what is the selection first? Let us see what the selection is. Selection of news items on the basis of news values and editorial policies. This is actually the first part of process of editing. Okay, that is copies from different news sources reach the news desk. So the news flow of copy from reporter to the concerned editor is known as copy flow. So copies reach online too. So from the vast pool of stories, appropriate copies for one's own newspaper should be selected. So this is selection. So that is no news will flow from all directions. So appropriate copies for one's own newspaper should be selected. So that is selection. So there are a lot of incidents happening every moment all over the world. So every nooks and corners are bound with news events. So most of them are publishable. But as far as a newspaper or a radio station or a television channel is concerned, it is impossible to afford all news at a time or within the limitations of space and time. So it is not practically possible for the newspaper or radio or a television channel to publish all the news item. So here selection become a necessity. So media appoint copy tasters to select most relevant stories from the copies available in desk. So they are called copy tasters, tasters or sub editors who estimate the news items worth for publication. So copy tasters' duty is to select the most relevant stories from the copies available in desk. So the process of accepting or rejecting the bulk of news stories arriving at the newsroom of a newspaper office is called the copy tasting. It is usually done by a senior sub-editor who is known as copy taster. So his duty is, his or her duty is to select the copies primarily for their newsworthiness. So there are many other factors that influence copy tasting, which ranges from newsroom politics, local interests, management policies, and interest to ideologies and so on. Their duty is they just taste the news and select needed ones. So it starts when a reporter considers events to transform. So copy editor check and recheck selected items. So select news items corresponding to the space and time allowed is the primary work that an editorial desk is done. And the second process or the phase in the principles of news editing is correction. So the first phase is selection and the second one is correction. So selected news are corrected by sub-editors. The sub-editor handles types of copies. Written material containing relatively few errors actually require little editing and it is called clean copy. So the material which require little editing is called clean copy. These reports are usually written by experienced reporters. So copies written by cub reporters often need tight editing. the budding reporters. Okay, cub reporters means budding reporters or new reporters. So copies written by these new reporters or budding reporters often need tight editing because there would be many errors. So the time taken for editing depends on the nature of the story. A well-written story takes few minutes. A complicated story takes hours for editing. So news editing is the process of preparing language through correction, condensation and organization of facts. So if you see, according to Oxford Dictionary, the word editor comes from the Latin phrase editus, which means to put forward. So the sub-editor begins to put forward himself, his copy, by reading at least 3 times. So he has to read, the sub-editor has to read the copy at least 3 times. The reasons are, he must read the copy at least 3 times to see, to get the content of the story, to understand what the story is about, and to make the language clear and meaningful. And also he must read to correct spelling, grammar, punctuation and factual errors, and also to check whether the story defames somebody, and also he or she must check whether any story would lead to contempt of court proceedings, and also the reporter should read to reduce the length. Understand? So the sub-editors serve as a second set of eyes looking for any errors in the copy. The reporter serves as the first set of eyes, as you have learnt in the reporting section, which we have already done in 3rd sem. So the reporters should cross-check and give attribution to the story before forwarding his copy to the desk. So at the accuracy check level of editing, the sub-editor makes sure that all numbers in a story are correct. For example, the sub-editor must check the address that is given in the news story. He must check whether the other address is correct, and ages, date and time references. So he must check all these details, and the sub-editor confirms that the reporter has used proper titles for everyone who is quoted, and reviews all attributing given in the story. So news reports by reporters and other sources always need correction. That is, errant spelling and grammar are repaired, clumsy structure and dual meanings, pun and ambiguity are cleared, potential libel and cliche are eliminated. So though the reporter is an experienced one, little mistakes can be can be occurred. So all such mistakes are corrected in desk. A third party reading always contributes some corrections. So the spell check tool is also used to correct spelling mistakes and calculate word count. That is, the electronic editing. That is what we call today the electronic editing. So it is this electronic editing is easy if you know a word processing program like Microsoft Word. So with the direct input of copy, all the editing operations are done online with the help of edit software. I believe you know this. So the cursor on the computer screen guides the person. So you can use menu options like to cut, copy, delete. There are other options like trim, boil down or prune to reduce the length of the story, and this saves space. And you can also use to cut and paste methods to save space, and more background materials possibly from morgue or newspaper library you can use. And as I said, the spell checker tool is used to correct spelling mistakes, and even it is used to calculate word count. So, for example, if you see the split screen on which 2 stories are displayed side by side. It can be used when working on a copy from another source and to rewrite the dull copy, adding more background information from multiple sources. So thus sub-editor can add late information. He can do it faster by blue pencil or ballpoint pen. So the revision form of story is called regex or redress. Okay, the revision form of story is called redress. So the clean copy is then directly sent for image setting. So this is what done under the second phase or section, that is correction. The third phase of the process is rewriting. The third phase in the process of editing is called rewriting, and this is a thorough rewriting of stories. See, copy editing is in common parlance is dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Okay, dotting, this is what we call dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So in fact, sub-editing is more than that. It is, however, only an aspect of. So rewriting is another part of, as I said, is editing. So rewriting every story is not necessary, but a dull story has to be converted into a readable one. So after having the feel of a story, the sub-editor who plays the role of rewrite reads it again and again for anything that are missing. He must check whether there are gaps. Does the story make sense? So the editor who is reading the copy must see whether there are any gaps or whether the story makes sense, or the important facts highlighted at the beginning. This is very important. He must check whether the important facts are highlighted at the beginning. Is it fair, accurate and balanced? And how do you going to fill the blanks that the reporters miss in the story? So this is the next important part. So it is the duty of the reporter who is rewriting the story. So he has to fill the blanks, and he or she must see how he is going to fill those blanks. And the reporter polishes the lead and adds more background information and provides answers for important questions. Also changes the presentation rule and style of language. So this happens only at the third level. Changing the language and the style of writing takes place only in the third phase. And also the reporter here modifies the structure of the story, and he organizes the facts either in tune with the inverted pyramid, which we have already studied in last sem, the inverted pyramid style of news writing, or hourglass style of news writing. So the rewrite man, the person who is rewriting the story, sometimes translates wire story from English into the language of the newspaper. Okay, so wire stories, I believe wire stories are from the other sources. So a very few stories should be rewritten. In most cases, it may be from temporary arrangements. So such copies don't follow the news structure. So untrained reporters and freelancers also commit the same mistake. To write news, journalists follow actually a fixed structure, as we have already seen, inverted pyramid or hourglass structure or other structures. So it provides important points first. So this inverted pyramid structure actually provides important points at first. So least important points come only at the end, that is last part. So unnecessary words, phrases and information are avoided. So if the copy does not achieve such a quality, it should be treated for rewriting. So only the presentation style, language and structure of the story is rewritten. No additions are possible at this level. Understand? So no additions are possible at this level. So in other words, it is a reconstruction of the story by using the same materials. So this is rewriting. So what are the three phases? Selection, correction and rewriting. Remaining we will see in next class. Thank you.